All right, quick backstory. For 9 years, I was a railroad conductor. And every single one of those 9 years, I told myself the same lie, right? Work hard enough, keep your head down, grind it out, and everything will get better. Well, it didn't. And I think you watching this might be telling yourself the same lie right now. That the answer is more hours, right? More effort, more grind. That lie almost cost me everything. Now, today, I want to show you where I actually started. I want to show you the moment that it nearly fell apart for me. And the one thing that actually truly changed everything. And it had nothing to do with working harder. And this comes from a place that's personal. So here we go. I grew up in a small town called Ashland, Kentucky. I was a very quiet kid. I had no exposure to anything business or entrepreneurial, right? I had no exposure to wealth. My dad worked a blue collar job my entire life at a steel mill. In my house, money was something that you held on to. You saved it. You avoided any kind of risk. You worked for a guaranteed paycheck, right? That was it. That for me was the entire game. Right? That was the plan that I got handed growing up, right? You go to school, you get a job, you go and work your job, retire, and then that's it. Can anybody relate? So I did the job part, right? I worked a few odd and end jobs. I went to college, dropped out after a year, and then I went to the railroad as a train conductor, right? Another blue collar job. Now, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Every weekend I was out partying, making bad decisions. I was trying to fill like an unfillable void I had. And it was slowly putting me into the ground. I was depressed. I was hopeless. I hated my life. I was at some of the lowest points in that job that I'd ever been in. There was mornings that I genuinely did not even see a reason to get up. But there was always this one thing that I could never shake. I knew for a fact that God called me to more, to lead, not to follow. And I didn't have a plan. I just knew the way that I've been approaching life at that moment was absolutely not the right way. So I got into real estate. Why? Well, to be honest, because anything looked better than the job I had, and I happened to know somebody in real estate. But what I didn't understand was how hard real estate actually was. Nobody tells you that the thing you're running to can actually break you just as fast as the one you were in, right? I almost lost everything, and I had to go get a part-time job at T-Mobile just to keep the lights on, right? And when I joined a team, the only team that would take me on was a short sell team. Now, do you know what those people do all day? I didn't either until I joined it. They call people day in and day out that don't want to speak to them at all. And here's where the lie had really gotten its grip on me. The answer to all of it was work for me. I would just work harder, make more dials, put more hours in, keep pushing. Guys, I used the same scripts. I tried to convince people. I tried to close them, right? I poured everything I had to doing more and more and more of the same thing. Well, guess what? It didn't work. I got cussed out. I got hung up on. I got rejected consistently every single day on repeat. So when I first started, I couldn't even get a sentence out on the phone, guys, without stuttering and forgetting what my name was, where I was at, what universe I lived in. It was bad. I was doing everything this industry tells you and all the gurus out there. I was outworking the entire room, but I was still drowning. I still could not make enough money to live because more effort in the wrong direction isn't progress. It's just a faster way to burn out. However, most agents don't find that out until they're already exhausted and ready to walk away from the business. And I hope that's not where you're at right now. But here's the turning point. What actually changed everything for me personally wasn't that I pushed harder. It was actually a realization I had. And it was never about what I was saying. Listen, it was about how I made people feel with what I was saying. Now, the second I stopped adding the hours and I started trying to understand people, I dived super deep into psychology, the whole game changed for me. I'm gonna give you an example with somebody who obviously isn't me, and his name is Anthony. He's a student that I worked with in the past. Anthony, he wasn't struggling like a new agent. He was already doing like 20 million a year. He was already grinding, he was working really hard. He was outworking most of the people in his office, but by every measure, he had every effort part locked down. But he hit a ceiling. If working harder was really the answer, Anthony would have already broke through that ceiling years ago. He kept hitting 20 million year after year after year after year, right? Nobody could ever question that man's work ethic. So what actually did we do with Anthony? What changed? It wasn't even his hours. We simply added the psychology of people, understanding people, and gave him a new system. We changed how he understood the person on the other side of the conversation and how he spoke to them, how he made them feel. Then we recreated his follow-up system. 12 months later, Anthony went from 20 million a year to 60 million a year. He tripled his income. Same guy, same hours in the day that he had before. The only thing that shifted was he stopped trying to do more and he just started converting what he had at a much higher level in the same amount of time. And by the way, that's the same exact thing that took me from zero, literally nothing, to $116 million in listings in my first 4 years. And now to this point, I've sold over 1,000 homes. Now remember this, I am talking about the exact same guy I told you about before who couldn't even finish a sentence on the phone. Both of those are me, right? So the money did not come from just out grinding, out working, and putting more effort in. It came from finally focusing on the right thing. Here's what I want you to walk away with, and I want to say this to you before we're done here. Especially if you're somewhere in the middle of the story that I'm telling you right now and you can relate to this. You're tired, you're doing the work, you're stuck in some way. The answer is probably not a few more hours on the phone. It's not, let me talk to more people, okay? The answer is changing what you do in the hours that you already have. All right, if you're putting in the work and you're tapping out and you just can't seem to do it, it's not about doing more. And look, there's a deeper piece under that too I want to explain. The piece that actually set me free. So for years, every single person that I called, I thought the deal, like it depended on my life. Because in my mind it did. Right? That's why I pushed so hard. I needed that so bad. That is why I was always burnt out. Now, the shift came there whenever I understood this one thing. Okay, the people that I was speaking to on that other side of the phone, they weren't my providers. God is. He will provide for you even if the person on the other end of the phone does not give you their listing. End of story, period. The second that I stopped feeling like I was desperate for the business and people could finally feel when I was speaking to them that I wasn't there to take anything from them, that I didn't need them, they let go. And that's exactly when the business started to flow in. Okay, so your work is your offering, right? You got to show up. You got to be faithful. Give it everything you've got, and then you got to trust that God will provide for you. That is where true success comes from, okay? But listen, effort poured in the wrong method is not faithfulness. It's just exhaustion, right? You need the discipline, then you need to develop, then you need to delegate that scale, right? You have to develop the right skill, not just grind more, okay? Working harder is never gonna save you, but working on the right thing will, just like it did me, just like it did Anthony. Okay, so here's what I want you to walk away with today. Number one is you're not failing because you're lazy or because you don't know what you're doing. You're failing because you've just been depending, literally depending on understanding the script that you have and not understanding the human that's alive on the other side of the phone that you're speaking to. That's the whole reason the channel that I have here exists, okay? Number two, stop trying to outgrind everybody, all right? I want you to operate out of God's grace and watch how much more He will bless you and your business. And finally, number three, I want you to find a system that you like. It's got to be simple, it's got to be servant-led, and it's got to be scalable or you won't do it, okay? This keeps the business coming in even when you're not grinding consistently, okay? So if you want a complete breakdown of the system that I personally use, I talk about it right here in this video. Go take a look at it. I break down the entire follow-up system that made me the obvious choice to the sellers. It's the one that wins listings without you having to chase a single person, all right? That's all I got for you today. God bless, and I will see you on the next one.